Coach Nick, B-Ball Breakdown. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks. Nice to be here. Thank you, Gumbo.
So I want to get into the MVP race, but first let's get into this Nuggets Warriors game. Nikola Jokic, 32, 16, and 16. But what's often that is not said about Jokic is the defense.
Mhm.
Put Jokic in actions, they say. But then lately he's been seeming to blow it up. I kind of even like the idea of SGA as the MVP. I'm not even mad at the voter fatigue thing anymore, but it does feel like the gap between Jokic and the rest of the league is widening.
I kept saying I think that people were maybe like doubting whether or not the Nuggets could, repeat and be as as lethal as they were last year. But when they do it, when they get healthy, when they have everybody on the court, they are just the best team I've seen. They're the most prepared. They don't get phased by anything. I mean, listen, last night Klay Thompson dropped, I think, 23 points in the first half on, hit 7 threes, was on fire. But I will say this, I would suggest to the Warriors that they get red hot in the second half, not in the first half. That would probably be a better way to do it. Guess who took my advice? The Nuggets, and they hit some really timely threes. But that's actually, to get back to my point, I'm not so sure that Jokic is the guy that they're the most afraid of, isn't the right word, but isn't the biggest X factor for this team, like against the Warriors, for instance.
Well, the X factor is usually the guy that's not the best player, right? Because it's usually a swing factor.
True, true. And so when I'm watching it, the way that what makes it most unfair for the Warriors specifically is Aaron Gordon, because the only guy they'd really want to guard Aaron Gordon with would be Draymond Green. But if they want to start Draymond Green at center, he's now got to guard Jokic, which Jokic filled up the stat sheet. But I did see some possessions where Draymond could hold him in the post and get a hand up. He's got really long arms, and at least be a defender that he's a normal defender. But then, if you have Wiggins and you have Kuminga in there and everybody else is small, Aaron Gordon just can feast. There's no answer for that. And then you have to go back to Looney and then Looney and Draymond. And now you have that suboptimal offensive, lineup. So I don't think that this is a great matchup. The Warriors have to hope that they don't ever have to play them in the playoffs if they want to go far.
Are you concerned about the shin splints? Because my whole thing was with Jamal Murray, I'm talking about, it felt like it was a single occurrence injury that happened to him. He was kind of like laying on the floor, and then they say it's shin splints. That doesn't really connect for me because I feel like shin splints is something that happens over time. So I don't know if they're being totally transparent.
Yeah, wait, what part of the game was it when he was on the
No,
ground?
no, no. That was a prior game.
Oh, okay.
So it
I
seemed
mean, all
like
I
to
can
be
tell
like a
you is that
single. It seemed like to be a single occurrence, and now they're saying shin splints.
well, based on what I saw last night down the stretch, I mean, he was great. He hit a couple of just really tough shots that ended any
Right.
notion of a run for the Warriors. And just remind you that while I guess not an All Star this year, deserves to be in an All Star game every year. As just one of those guys who's battle tested and can just hit shots. So that's the thing is, if they don't want to go to Jokic, if they have the luxury, okay, they can let Murray isolate and elevate and do what he likes. The Warriors try to go at him a little bit, and there might be something there where you can kind of get some extra buckets, maybe a foul or two. But I don't know. I just feel like down the line, they're deep. They get guys who can contribute. And certainly when you have Jokic feeding everybody, then everybody's better. So Zeke Naji is better. Peyton Watson's better. Those guys are already, and Christian Brown is already like good. Already has that experience from last year. So I'm not so sure what the Nuggets are going to do, or what anyone's going to do in the West to beat them in a 7-game series.
Watching Murray and Jokic, what stands out to me the most is they're just better when it matters most. Like I got to watch Jokic up close in the All-Star game, and he absolutely didn't care at all. And I think because he knows in his head it doesn't matter. And when Jamal Murray is in the playoffs and important games, he's not even an All-Star. He's an all NBA talent at times.
Oh yeah, absolutely. All NBA, whatever, every superlative you can throw at him, please do. He really is terrific. And again, it doesn't. It's like they could be going poorly for most of the game, and then suddenly snap into it. The pressure isn't going to bother them, and they can find those shots. I mean, all they have to do is have Jamal Murray set a back screen for a cutter, and then come around for a handoff from Jokic. That's it. They have an offense that is unstoppable in terms of being able to generate a good look every time down. They could just go to Jokic in the post if they wanted to. They could just run a pick and roll, let Jokic pop out, who can then hit clutch threes. He hit the three that beat the Warriors last time, having come back from 18 points down. So, and that was the one thing I said about the Warriors is that they've had a number of games against good teams where they've had them down and then lost those leads because they couldn't quite solve the matchup or the lineup issues down the stretch. But you can't ignore that they did have those leads and they built them up. But it's really predicated on, kind of probably getting otherworldly hot like we did see from Clay. And it's probably not as sustainable anymore in this juncture of Clay and Steph's careers as it used to be.
So last night, OKC did beat a team they were supposed to beat. SGA, outstanding as always, 36 points, 13 for 23 from the field, 8 for 9 from the line. As I said, like, I think Jokic is clearly the best player in the NBA, but what are your thoughts on SGA's MVP case?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I like the storyline. That seems to be what MVP races are all about. And the guy is putting up 30 a night, right? He doesn't get lower than 30 these days, and usually closer to 40 now. He is pretty much everything you'd want in MVP, right? He can blend into the offense. He can be, a mover out of their motion. Jalen Williams with the E can eat. And so can Holmgren and find their shots. But then when it comes time for they need it, then he just takes over and does what the MVP is supposed to do. So I have no problem with him being in the MVP conversation. It's a really ridiculous exercise to have to try and vote for this. Because look at all the other guys who are supposed to be eligible for MVP as well. It's like, I don't know how you're supposed to choose. Maybe you want to go down to like wins or like, seeding in the West or something like that. But like when you're talking about Luka and Jokic and Shea and I'm missing somebody. Embiid, I guess, is not going to get the minimum games, right?
Nah, yeah, I think it comes down to Jokic, Luka, SGA, and Luka's team has been on a hot streak in his own right.
Oh, I know. Luka has been absolutely terrific as well. And it's really great. I'm going to have to do a video on him and Kyrie too, because it's really fun to watch them. Yeah, OKC I've been meaning to get a video done on them too for months. I don't know. The voters could very well feel like he's still really young. The other guys are sort of quote unquote more in their prime. So maybe they throw it to one of them, and then knowing that Shea will get plenty in the next several years. But so I'm willing to say that he will get an MVP. I just don't know if it's going to be this year.
3 international players in the mix again.
Oh, there won't be an American MVP for a while.
I mean, I think Ant Edwards probably has the best chance over time, right? But he's not really close to these guys yet.
Yeah. Did you see what KP said about Tatum, though?
Tell me more.
Basically that how much he sacrifices, right, for the team, which is true. I mean, they're killing everybody in the East, and so his numbers won't really, rise to that level. But I don't know, man. You want to compare SGA to Tatum? You want to compare the other guys to Tatum? I don't think that Tatum quite rises to that level anyway.
I totally agree. And best player on the best team argument doesn't really make sense to me when your team is just a lot better on paper than those other teams.
I don't know. I mean, listen, best player and best team should count for a big chunk of something, don't you think?
Well, not if your team is just your top 6 players are just a lot better than the teams you're playing against and the other candidates.
Well, I mean, it's reminiscent.
Tatum is the best player on the best team.
Right. Well, the Curry argument for a little while was, he'd only play 30 minutes a game because they killed everybody. So his numbers were a little bit deflated, right? Although, would you argue that the Warriors before KD got there were better across the board as the Celtics are now?
Yeah, because that was prime Clay, prime Dre, and prime KD, and the way it fit together.
Oh, but before the Harrison Barnes version, when he won.
I mean, because of Steph, I think that takes them over the top because he's like a top 10 player all time. But, the top 6 of the Celtics are just really talented and fit together well. They're
do.
Just, like Jason Tatum does not have to be great for them to win. Luka, SGA, and Jokic have to be great for their team to win.
Yes. Luka, Jokic. Jokic is the interesting thing. Did they have to be great for them to win? I mean, I know they got beat a few times. Jokic had a lull for several games in there in the middle of the year. I guess so. You're probably right. I mean, for some reason, when you're watching Gordon and Jamal Murray and everybody else on that team, how they fit together, it's like, man, just really solid as well. They're really good. But you're right. There's a really perfect, balance between everybody, and it all works together so well. So, yeah. Now, but the Celtics, I did a little bit of a breakdown. We're talking about Jaylen Brown and KP's pick and roll. They're the number one, I think number one in the league right now. number two. They're top three in the league right now for pick and roll pairings. And by the way, Tatum and KP are fifth or whatever. So they have two of the top 5 or 6, pick and roll pairings in the league right now. So that's going to really help the Celtics as well. And listen, kudos to Tatum for being less of a focus to try and make sure everyone else gets to eat a little bit as well. And that should be, and that's bearing out in their record. It's worth looking at the Celtics a little bit more closely to really figure out what they have and if they're going to be a threat.
My question to you is, when we're looking at the MVP award, should we just give it to the best player in the NBA, or is there more to it?
Yeah, I don't know. I wish somebody would outline exactly what the MVP is supposed to award, because I don't know. Is it the best player in the league? Is it the guy who's the most valuable to their team? Is it a guy who's the most valuable, like, in the league? Like, here's my argument, which is you can use this will be your AI subtitles thing on your where you say, the MVP of the league should be the guy on your team that you give the ball to in the last minute of a game and say, here, go win us the game. Not that you have to shoot it, but you get the ball in his hands and they're going to do something and create the shot you want to win the game. Some of these guys who have won MVP recently don't have that role. And so that's always been confusing to me. I don't know why they would win that role of MVP if they are not the MVP on their own team.
Lakers. Let's shift to the Lakers, Coach Nick.
Okay.
Lakers defense. It's getting roasted by the internet, saying it's not good enough to win an NBA championship. You pay close attention to this team. They have AD. They have some solid defenders. Everybody praised their offseason moves on both sides of the floor. They thought it was pretty good, right? What is going on with the Lakers defense?
Well, you have obviously LeBron, who doesn't really, isn't going to wants to conserve energy, I think, right? And maybe rightfully so. It's fine. I mean, he's certainly filling up the box score on the other end, in the sense that, if he's going to be responsible for giving up, 20 some points, but then he scores 25 and gets, 8 assists, then does it, is he a net positive, perhaps? I don't know. To me, it feels more like this is the lineups. Darvin Ham is having a lot of problems, and the Laker fans are just ruthless. They want him out yesterday. They're sensing that there's chaos. They're sensing that there's not a lot of just good coaching going on, and I don't necessarily disagree. Someone did a nice edit of Taurean Prince's shots last night. They were just sort of not good shots, and a guy at that level, at that role, shouldn't be in the end of February figuring out what his shot selection should be on on a good team, right? Those roles should be defined pretty solidly by now. And so I think that's the issue, and I think that maybe people are wondering if it's the coaching is the biggest issue as well. I got to do a deeper dive to kind of figure out exactly what's going on. I believe that their 3-point defense is suboptimal. I can check that real quick, and that's obviously in a league where 3-point shots are king. You're gonna get killed. You're not gonna be you're gonna be a 500 team at best if you can't defend the 3-point shot better.
They've shown flashes, right? Midseason tournament, AD looked like the best defensive player in the world by far, especially in the championship game. It just feels like with the Lakers, the highs are so high and the lows are so low.
That is right. And you know what? A real quick look at the Lakers defense, opponent shooting from above the break. They're not terrible, but they're looks like maybe 10th worst. And let's see the corner three, which is the one that's going to kill you, right? Let's do the corner three. Lakers look like they're not. Yeah, they're in the similar boat there, maybe 10th, 12th. So that's actually not even killing them. I don't know. It'll be worth a deep dive. I would just suppose, from my general sense of watching them somewhat recently, there's just it's not a crispness with rotations. They're not exactly sure who's supposed to rotate through. There's dribble penetration and getting to the lane easy, finger pointing, all that stuff. Things that tend to not be great for the team. And as a result, they are struggling here to even make the playoffs. Right now, let's see, where are they? They are 9th, a half game in front of the Warriors. And but pretty much they have 3.5 game lead in front of the Jazz, who are 11th. So I think the Warriors and Lakers probably feel pretty good about the play-in at this point.
It feels like they got an issue on the boards as well. Nurkic, 22 rebounds against them last night. The scoring was actually pretty evenly balanced with their top 3 guys, Grayson Allen and Nurkic. Is that a concern for the Lakers? I mean, AD is known to be such a great defender, but it seems like he's been struggling on the boards lately. And Nurkic is looking like baby Jokic out there. they were actually drafted to the same team, and Jokic was supposed to be his backup.
Well, you know what's funny was when you say 22 boards, I'm like, okay, if Nurkic got 15 defensive rebounds, it's like, okay, the Lakers must have been bricking a lot of shots. There's a lot more rebounds to be grabbed. Against the Suns last night, the Lakers were over 52% from the field and 42.9% from three. If you lose shooting that way by 10 points to a team, and let me see, and the Suns did get 2 more threes. They shot it equally well from behind the 3-point line, and actually worse overall. I guess, you know, there's not a lot of, that's very fascinating. That's an anomaly. I'm gonna have to go dig into this game a little bit closer because the Lakers only had 10 turnovers. So that is bizarre to me that they shot so well, and got beat, going away.
How do you feel? Yeah, let's end with this. How do you feel about this Suns team? It's always a team that I didn't believe in, especially for this season, just because of the redundancy and skill set of their top 3 stars. And then there wasn't enough depth, but now they added depth with Royce O'Neal. Grayson Allen is having a career year, and Nurkic is playing great, as we just mentioned.
I mean, listen, you want to count out a team that's got Kevin Durant, like, go ahead, good luck with that. And I kept saying all year long, like, I don't know what to make of this team until we see Bradley Beal out there, healthy and playing with them enough. We did have a decent sample size for a little while, but as it is, I still don't quite know if I really like Devin Booker. I know they got to the finals one year, right? Yes. When my mind is mush. They got to the finals, right? Yes, and they got beat by the Lakers, right? No, who did they get beat by? Am I crazy? I'm losing my mind. You're not going to tell me? Are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, you're not. Come on, Denver made it to the finals when?
Denver won the championship last year.
No, not Denver. I mean Phoenix. Did I say Denver? I meant Phoenix. Phoenix went to the finals. What year was it? They went to the finals. There we go. Against the Bucks, right? The Bucks in 2020, in 2021. So like there's a proof of concept that Devin Booker could be a starter on a finals team and whatever, and play really well and lead the team. I don't know. I just get a little bit worried when I watch him for some reason, and I really wish I could put my finger on it because he's a terrific player. Man, he's got a beautiful jump shot and he's got a beautiful mid-range game. All the things that you kind of need in the playoffs. So, I suppose they're going to be, doubted until they're not doubted, as this goes along. But they do have a nice team put together. Grayson Allen is shooting the lights out. Let me just check. Was that still the case? Because I know like a week and a half ago, he was 47%. Let me see here what was shooting. Almost 49% from 3 on 5 a game. So, and by the way, it's really nice when you're playing alongside 2 guys that can grab that much gravity and create shots for him. So they have a nice team put together. There's no question. They have a very good coach as well. So they really shouldn't be out of the conversation, but I don't know. They need another couple signature wins, I guess, until we can really put them in there.
Yeah, I mean, we can finish with this. Like when I was watching SGA and Devin Booker play in the All-Star game, and obviously nobody's going hard, but Devin Booker plays like he's a great basketball player, but the way SGA moves is just like totally different. Like there's something absolutely special about the way SGA moves, even though Booker is a great talent in its own right. Like you could just see the difference, even both of them playing at half speed.
Yeah. I just quickly called up the Suns schedule because I want to see. They're at Denver. I'm sorry, they're playing Oklahoma City on the 3rd, at Denver on the 5th. Then they got to play at home against Boston on the 9th, and then they play Boston at Boston on the 14th. And then they got the Bucks on the 17th. So we're going to have, this is where we're going to find out what the Suns are like. We got a nice couple week stretch coming up here in about a few days. And we're going to have to prove it there. I'm anxious to see how they do it. That's probably going to be the deciding factor for me for how well I think they're going to do in the playoffs.
Well, subscribe to B-Ball Breakdown, and we're actually about to do a live show after this. So you'll probably the live show will be done by the time you see this probably, but yeah, they get it.
Yeah, right. Go back in time, go watch a live show after the fact. You can go, it's still up there on my channel.
Most definitely. Where else can we find you, Coach Nick?
You can just type in B-Ball, probably autofill the B-Ball Breakdown because I'm old. Doing this for so long, but Twitter is probably the best place after YouTube, and then I'm gonna start doing stuff on TikTok, man. I'm gonna do some whiteboard drawing on the old TikTok channel. I think that'll do big.
That proves age is just a number.
It is.
Let's talk soon, Coach Nick, later.
I'm in.